This is the sluggo, slant and go.
2 weeks in a row, Casey the Beef Creek, and I got this down pat now. After 82 shows of screwing up, I'm 2-82, just like the St. Peter's baseball team. I think from your neck of the woods up there. Hey, I heard you had some technical difficulties.
Yeah, I just can't figure out my computer. Apparently, it doesn't want to be friendly this evening.
It is
And
so
of course,
funny.
that's when it happens always when you're the busiest too, right? So
Yeah.
my son was taking a nap before because I guess he came home not feeling so good from school, and
Uh-oh.
we didn't think he was going to wake up anytime soon. And of course, he does right before the show. Well, he needs a bath, so we're just my wife and I were trying to eat dinner. It worked out. It's okay, but under normal circumstances, it wouldn't have been an issue. I would have been able to test it an hour ago. But
Yeah. It's funny how that works out, right? I had I don't know 7 meetings today, and it was working fine for 6 of them, and I get on the 7th one, and right before I get on the 7th one, it just dies, and you're like, couldn't wait an hour? You couldn't
right.
couldn't.
And you're
Oh
doing nothing different. I mean, I feel like we're a broken record. Like
yes.
we used to talk about the weather all the time, but now I feel like we're doing nothing different. We're hitting the same flipping buttons.
Yep. Hey, Kevron checks in and says, "Good evening, everybody. Go Tigers." Kevron, great to hear from you in Cope, South Carolina.
Always great to hear from Kevin.
Nelson,
Thank you for joining.
what's Nelson saying? For
A
more
few more
years.
years.
Go ahead.
And Ryan can fix my computer for me. He could probably do it now, Nelson, if we're being honest.
He's got a better shot anyway, right? By the way, I saw a picture of a young slider on the beach. He looks like he enjoys Calabogie Sound.
He's doing all right, man. That kid is I was telling somebody this morning, he's the mayor of the 740 boat, man. He's got all the ladies swooning over him. He's got a couple high school girls that sit with him every day. Like,
Oh
he
my!
doesn't need dad anymore. He's got the life here.
It's funny because we stayed at Hilton Head a couple summers when Parker was around that age, maybe a little bit older. But we went on a boat. What were we looking for? Dolphins, maybe? I don't remember.
Probably. There's a lot of dolphin trips, yeah.
And they let him drive the boat, man. He thought he was the coolest thing ever. So Parker has actually driven a boat in Calabogie Sound, but he doesn't remember it, of course. But he was actually a boat driver in that same little waterway over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, the older Ryan gets, I thought he kind of looked like you, and you said no, he looks like my wife. He's too cute, and I agree with you now. By the way, I think I agree because he's an adorable little guy. So
well, thanks.
Very
he
cool.
Thinks so too.
Cool. and the other thing is, we went to Charleston. Now these weren't high school girls, but my friend Matt has 3 blonde girls. They're all like a year apart. And so they were like 11, 12, and maybe 10, 11, and 12. Parker's a little fella, and one of them goes to Clemson now, by the way. And they were dragging Parker around like like he was a doll, right? Literally, like right, dragging him from room to room. It was hilarious. But that's as close as he got to high school girls. So Slider's doing better. Hey, Beef, daylight saving time's hit, and I love it. And I heard the Senate voted 100-0 to keep it this way, but we don't know. You know how, remember in, what was it? I was going to say sociology, but it's not sociology. Civics, how they taught you about how a bill becomes a law. It's still got a few hurdles to go through, but I just wish they would. I haven't slept very well all week, right? And it's weird because it's just an hour, but
it's crazy. When I travel to your neck of the woods, it's an hour, right? Like you said, but it just feels like a day, even though it's just an hour. So it's weird. I get it. I mean, it's not jet lag, but I get it. So they decided that we're not going to have daylight savings anymore?
Or we are. It's going to stay like this forever. We're not going to switch. It's going to be dark later. It messes me up a little bit in the morning, but you got to take one or the other, and you'll get used to it eventually instead of the back and forth and back and forth and back and forth.
This is certainly
But
not a political show, but I'm certainly not smart enough for it. But like, are they allowed to just mess with Mother Nature like that? I mean, is that a thing? I don't know. I'm not smart enough. I'll have to read up on
well, my initial thought, as you said, we're not political. My initial thought is it was 100-0. When's the last time the Senate voted 100-0?
Let's get more issues like that out there, right?
Yeah, it could only help. All right, we named this show The Big Reveal. It's not really a big reveal because it's already been revealed. Um, I started Seldom Used Reserve up again I can't remember, June or July, in hopes of getting it back and having an outlet to write for, right? Get my thoughts out. Yeah, we do this podcast, we do this live video, but it's not the same as writing where you can take your time and craft the words. Ha ha ha. And, put it out there, and it's kind of out there forever. And people consume information in different ways. So writing has become a lot of fun for me. And my wife says I do it well. But she says I don't write anything to her anymore, but that's another topic. But, but I started writing for an Astros website. It was it was a fan-sided Astros website, and I really, really enjoyed it, and have really enjoyed it over the last 8 or 9 months. A lot of fun, and for whatever reason, after 9 months, I decided to go look and see, hey, maybe I want to write some more. And we have like 7 guys on there writing stuff, and I saw that the Clemson Rubbing the Rock fan-sided website was available. Or available for what they call a site expert, basically the manager of the site. And so I went through a lengthy application process. I think I was the only one who's applied. It's been kind of dead for like 4 months, and so now I am the site expert. I hate the term. I don't want to use it. I feel icky trying to use it, but that's their term, and that's what, basically it's the guy managing the site. So I can write what I want about Clemson there on that site. The Beef is going to write some things for that website if he ever gets the final stamp of approval, which I'm sure is coming. John Chansey, or as we call him, Chauncey Chansey, now known as Chauncey Chansey, has been approved and has submitted his first article, and I'll get that up in the next day or so. But it's an outlet. It gives us a bigger audience than Seldom Used Reserve will. There's some positives to it. There's some negatives to it. Obviously, you're not working for, but you're a contractor for a company that has certain expectations and certain procedures. In other words, we're not going to be writing about Alabama or North Dakota State. It's about Clemson. And so that's what it'll be about. I haven't made a decision yet on Seldom Used Reserve, but I think it's probably going to end up going away because it's a cost. And that's the other benefit of the fan-sided site, is that it doesn't cost me anything to do this. Get a few pennies for writing the articles. It's all based on ad revenue. So it's free. Rubbing the Rock. If you would check it out, I'd be excited if you did, and hope you enjoy what you write about Clemson. Beef, I don't know if you wanted to say anything, but I'm thrilled to have you and Chauncey Chansey on there helping me out writing about Clemson.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for doing the big heavy lift in here, because this is always something that I've wanted to do, and I did write my 2 cents for Seldom Used Reserve a couple weeks. I think 4 or 5 weeks. It was all I had. Delusions of grandeur. But even talking to you yesterday, just even in passing, our conversation about an idea for something that I could do to use my creative juices, and talk about the opponents this upcoming season. I mean, that's something that I've been talking about for forever, about how I always can read about the opponents and convince myself that Clemson's going to lose. Well, now that's pretty much been one of my assignments, which I called it, and I think you cringed at that, but I enjoy that now that I have a goal that's kind of been put in my head to kind of you still give me creative freedom to go do what I need to do, but that's just a great idea. and a great thing for me. So I'm just excited, and thank you for doing the heavy lifting. Excited to work with you and John. And as we're talking, I'm just getting an email from Maxwell Ogden from Fansided. So it looks like I'm official as well.
Hey, nice. Good job. Good. Alive and on the air. No, rubbingtherock.com, and the Twitter is at rubbingtherock. Larger audience, larger chance for this show to be seen. I'll be retweeting this show from that Twitter account when I post it to our Twitter account. So just a better chance, a larger chance for our writings to be seen. Really cool. Vanderbilt football started spring practice day. Look for Mike Wright to be the starter at quarterback. Hey, we're talking nice. Vanderbilt football. And that's the other thing. This outlet, this podcast, we can still talk anything we want. It's just on the website. It's about Clemson on that website. And we're not affiliated with Rubbing the Rock or Fansided on this podcast. But, two guys here are going to write for that site. And that's not unusual. And David says, thank you guys. Well, thank you, David. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you.
More Vanderbilt. David Dunham, who hit Matt Ryan all those years ago, that I'm still sharing that hit to everyone.
I still share it. That's a yearly event on the Seldom Used Reserve account, Casey. Everybody loves that one almost as much as they love Taj and Sammy today. But David Dunham, is that you? Are you the one that knocked Matt Ryan's helmet off and almost his head?
And it would have definitely been a targeting nowadays, but that's beside the point. And B, that hit gave me a newfound respect for Matt Ryan, because he only missed a play, maybe two, and he came back in.
I thought he was dead.
I thought he was dead as well when his head fell off and flew 40 yards.
Oh, Kane Patterson, the transfer from Clemson, is already making a splash. So we're getting a Vanderbilt report today.
I love it.
We need to have, Vandy Chris, if you want to jump on this podcast sometime, just reach out to us. We'll be glad to talk to you. We're about it all, man. Vanderbilt.
That's one school I'm completely ignorant about. So I would love to learn more.
John Chancey said he's happy about his new side hustle. Well, wait till you see your paycheck, John Chancey. Your paycheck. So it's kind of funny. I think the first article I wrote for the Astros site, I told Casey, I think I made like 7 cents an hour, because I was trying so hard. In my first one, right? I was trying so hard to be perfect. Now I'm like,
just throw it out.
Whatever. Let's throw it out there. It's not perfect. We don't expect perfection, but always fun. Let's see. What's Nelson say?
Thanks, Nelson. We're going to need that. That's why we keep the smart people around.
Yes. It's set up too, Nelson. Oh, sweet on the Very invite. Cool. I'm also a writer. Yes.
Well, I went to the same high school as Maldonado on Vanderbilt baseball, whose brother Chris is signed to come to Clemson. So I went to the same high school as the Maldonado boy. And who's the guy, John, hit the home run to win the College World Series for Vanderbilt? His first name was John.
I think
he was also Chris will know. And he went to my high school as well. My dad was his counselor.
All right. Yeah. You can reach out at seldomnewsreserve@gmail.com, or I didn't see, he's on the YouTube, it looks like. Just leave us a message on YouTube how to get a hold of you, and I'll reach out and we'll set something up. Appreciate your interaction, Chris. We really do appreciate it. We talk a lot of Clemson here, Chris, just so you know, and we're going to in about 10 seconds. But we're open to everybody. We've had guys on from other schools. We talk about all kinds of colleges and football here. So let's rock and roll.
Tim Corbin came from Clemson, so he's one of us, whether he wants to admit it or not.
Yeah, I was really frustrated with him and what's his name in Florida. Yeah, man. Yeah. You're bringing up staff members. Yeah.
What a staff.
It turned out to be, when you look back at that staff, just incredible.
Schlossnagel, too, from Texas A&M. Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
No doubt. Okay. As part of Casey, one thing we haven't done recently is talk a little recruiting because we started last year and honestly I couldn't keep up with it, right? But now doing the rubbing the rock thing, I'm going to have to keep up with it because I'm going to be writing about it, and hopefully it will help me. It will jog my old memory. But I wrote about some new offers that went out this past weekend. Jamal Anderson is a linebacker out of Georgia. He is the son of the Atlanta Falcons, Jamal Anderson. But he, as I said, plays he plays linebacker. My man is a 6'4", 195-pound linebacker. He's a 3-star. He's only ranked number, I say only, listen to me, 341 in the country. But I want to see what happens as the offers roll in, right? So Clemson's offering him, and some other bigger schools are offering him. So that's bound to change. You know, in the old days, used to say, "Oh, they're only up in his ranking because Clemson offered him or Alabama offered him." Well, that's true. Those guys that do, to some extent, those guys that do the rankings, they realize that the college coaches pretty much know what they're talking about, right? So it's just another opinion, and a very, very educated opinion of that. So it makes sense that if you don't have a guy highly ranked and he's got an offer from Alabama, which is another one of these young men down the line, you may need to rethink it, right? You may need to look again. Yeah. You're evaluating so many guys, it could be wrong. Anyway, Jamal Anderson out of Mill Creek High School in Georgia, son of Jamal Anderson, the running back for the Atlanta Falcons. Brandon Strozier is a cornerback out of Alpharetta, Georgia, St. Francis High School. He's number 374 and a 3-star. But the next guy is the one I kind of want to settle on here. It's Colton, I think it is Vasic, out of Westlake High School. Should sound familiar. Austin, Texas. A former teammate of Cade Klubnik. Now, I saw this guy. Their games, as I've said on this podcast many times, we're on TV here where I live every Friday night or Saturday, depending on when they're playing, occasionally on Thursday. And he stood out. Even in 6A college football with a dominant team, you don't see too many 6'6" defensive ends. And he was ragdolling people. Right. They weren't winning 28-17. They were winning 63-6 or nothing or 8 or whatever, some kind of wacky score. But he was dominant. Now he's a 3-star. He's 6'6" and 230. He's number 334, but he has offers from all over the nation. So expect him. I would say he'd probably end up in top 250, which is the really kind of the general cutoff for a blue chipper. So really excited about him. He's a kind of Clemson kid, kind of like Cade Klubnik. Good kids go to that school. Obviously not all of them, but in general, they're good kids that fit the mold of what Clemson is looking for. So I'm really, really excited about Colton. And one last guy from the weekend, Roderick Kearney, Orange Park, Florida, offensive tackle. They believe he's going to go inside at the next level. He's 6'4" and 300. He's the highest ranked out of these four that got offers recently. He's number 182 and a 4-star. So those are the four guys that got offers either last weekend or Monday morning from Clemson. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at any of those guys. Probably not, because I kind of surprised you with this, really, back into recruiting. But really excited about all of them, actually, because we know Jamal Anderson is going to have some athletic ability. I've seen Colton Vasic play many times, and I know he has ability, and Roderick Kearney's in the top 200. So really excited about this group.
Yeah, and you look at these guys. Colton Vasic is one guy that once you put it up that correlation between Westlake High School, I did look at, I think it was TigerNet had a couple of videos on him. And you're right. I mean, 6'6", he's enormous, and he's got a little twitch in his giddy up too. So he's a little fast guy around the edge. I was very excited to see that, and I really like that wide receiver they have too. What is it, Goodhouse or
Great House? He's not good. He's great. Great House. He's better than good.
But yeah, no, I have not looked at a lot of these guys. Jamal Anderson, obviously, there's some pedigree there. He looks like a big dude as well. I'm excited to get back into a little recruiting as well. I haven't, but it was good to see on Twitter these guys saying that they had offers from Clemson. So now it's kind of giving us somebody or some people, some guys to look at.
Because Clemson is a little bit behind, right? They only have one player committed for the class of 2023. And Alabama, I think, only has 2. But most of and we're not worried about Alabama. We know where they're going to end up, or close to where they're going to end up. But most of those teams, even in the ACC, I think Notre Dame had 9 or 10 already committed. So a little bit behind. But as JP Priester, a friend of the show, always likes to say, now that Clemson can get the guys on campus, we saw that this weekend. Once they can get those guys on campus, things start happening. They start feeling the love that you and I felt when we walked on that campus and we talked about last year. So it's an exciting time, and they have some holes they need to fill. One of the other players that I didn't mention, because he's been offered for a while, was the quarterback, not Arch Manning. We know he's going to go somewhere else, but Chris Vazina, I think is how you say it. I did an article on him the other day. He says, I know I'm Clemson's guy. They've only offered 2. One of them's Arch Manning, and everybody knows he's not coming to Clemson. So Chris Vazina knows he's the guy. So that would be perfect, right? You've got DJ as a junior. You've got Klubnik as a true freshman. Someone come behind him. Managing the roster is kind of nuts and crazy, right? You might have 8 running backs, and tomorrow you might not have any. The way the transfer portal and defections and people quitting, stopping playing football from injuries. So it's gotten really tough to manage rosters, and you need to have a quarterback every year because you don't know what's going to happen to the ones on your roster. And sometimes they leave and come back, like Hunter Johnson.
Yeah, but Vizina being from Alabama too kind of puts a little wrinkle into this recruiting, especially because Arch Manning is believed to be Alabama's top choice as well. I think Arch Manning is a lot of schools' top choice. Texas, so Ole Miss, among thousands of others, it seems. So, but it would be interesting to see that phrase again if Arch doesn't pick Alabama and surprises people and goes to Ole Miss, where his dad and uncle went, and grandfather, and how much Alabama kind of turns their attention to Vizina, because it seems like he's probably 2 or 3 on the list for quarterbacks in 2024.
He is
2023,
number.
Excuse me.
He is
5,
did
right?
I put it on there? Wait a second. Where did it go? He's a 4-star. He's number 51 overall. I think he's a 5th. Yeah, I didn't write it down, but I think he's 5th. He's right there.
Yeah, I think I saw 5.
But anyway, he's the 51st overall player, and that's a good thing to add to my spreadsheet, what number at the position he is. He's 6'4", 207, a 4-star. As you said, out of Birmingham, Alabama, Briarwood Christian. Got to have one every year because who knows these days, right? I mean, it's wild and woolly out there in the world of recruiting. Hey, our friend Nelson Wilhite has been keeping us up to date on the softball. Nelson, I just haven't had the time to watch. Some of the games conflict with baseball. You know where my priorities lie, especially with the 14-2 Clemson Tiger baseball team now. But Nelson sent us the video of Valerie Cagle's home run yesterday, and I'm laughing because just today, Nelson, I noticed the right fielder, and she turned around and then said, "Oh, no, not even gonna do it." It's like one of those MLB players, that hits the ball like 600 feet, and the right fielder kind of stands there. But she did make a turn, but it didn't last long.
It reminded me. I'm sorry, Marty. It reminded me. I played softball, like men's league softball, against Ozzie Canseco, so Jose's brother, and they played on this tournament team that they brought to this charity softball tournament, and it was so competitive. With, let's say there was 90 teams, about 89 teams, was so competitive, and it was a lot of fun because it was for a great charity. And then you went up against. We happened to win the whole thing one year. Well, we won our side the whole year and went up against Ozzie Canseco's team, which had nothing but these guys that looked like Jose Canseco. And I was playing left field against them. It got to the point where it was like 27-0 in the first inning, and I think we had an out. We may have. But my neck hurt because it got to the point where I looked at the left center fielder and I said, I'm not even turning for this guy. And they just hit a bomb and I didn't even turn it. It was like a disrespect thing. I was trying. Anyway, it didn't work. We ended up sharing the trophy with them.
I'll say, did y'all rally from 27-0 down?
We didn't. I'm not sure we hit. I'm not sure, but that's what Cagle's home run looked like yesterday. It looked like one of those things, and I just laughed too when I saw the video because it was like the right fielder just went like this. Because why move?
Yeah.
And
Well,
I was a
that
lot
thing
lighter
was
then, but
so far out of the park, and that's going to be the Seldom Used Reserve highlight tomorrow. And I'm going to put the phrase that I have trademarked, cagled, because she cagled those folks yesterday. That was a Titanic blast, and that was fun to watch. And just haven't had the time. It seems like they're playing when the baseball team is playing, right? Yesterday they were also, um, and of course all the stuff with the websites and trying to do this new thing with the fan-sided site, and just been busy. So I sincerely appreciate Nelson giving us the updates. Can't always reply because I'm writing down a crazy stat about the baseball team that we're going to talk about in a minute, but the ladies softball team is 18-6 with that 8-0 win over Winthrop. 0-3 in the ACC. We know they got swept by Virginia Tech last weekend, and they've got or 2 weekends ago, I think it was, and they got a 3-game series with Duke this weekend. Now, Duke was good last year. I don't know if they're any good this year. Nelson, let us know in the comments unless you know, Casey.
I don't. I haven't been paying attention to the ACC other than Florida State and Virginia Tech, knowing how good they are. Those two teams are both in the top 5 in the country, depending on what uh, ranking system you're looking at. I will say that the 0-3 in the conference isn't something to be upset about. I don't think yet. I think a lot of people in the Clemson fandom are kind of up in arms about the 6 losses because Clemson didn't have 6 losses until they had 30 some odd wins last year. But it's going to be this way, and it doesn't mean that Clemson's not good because they are. They still are good as long as you have Valerie Cagle on the mound and at the plate, Marissa Gombarda. You got Sam Russ. I mean, you got some names, and we're not even talking about Pi Clark yet. Logaleo. I mean, these girls are very ladies. Excuse me. These ladies are fantastic, and they're a lot of fun to watch. I have been catching an inning here, 2 innings there, but you're right. I've been focused, especially on the hot start. Here I am being that fan, the fair weather fan, that with the hot start for Clemson baseball, it's getting a lot of my attention. Whereas last year they weren't so good.
Right.
So my attention was to the good team. So I'm kind of outing myself here, but they're still fun to watch when I can watch them as well. And like you said, thank God for Nelson, because he does keep us abreast of all of the goings ons with the softball team, and gives us something to look at. When I go to read articles about him.
No doubt. Nelson said Duke is ranked not as high as FSU and Virginia Tech.
Pretty sure Duke lost their number 1 pitcher last year to graduation. So Duke's 13th, Clemson's 14th.
Friend of the show from the Morgan Thomas Show, Houston Burnett checks in, says host a regional this year. To me, that's a mission accomplished for team 3 years in. Yeah, what's funny? I saw the tweet the other day from Clemson softball saying it was their 100th game. They probably won 80 of them, and people are complaining already. I mean, it's kind of crazy. Expectations, man. Once you win, I remember people about the football team saying, I don't care how you win, just win. Then you kind of win, ugly. Like I was saying, Mac Brown's famous saying, you got to hug ugly. Well, you hug ugly a couple of times and people start disliking that, don't like the way you win. Don't like it. Hey, Casey.
Before we move on, I just wanted to say, like last year, you could tell as good as this team was and as fun as they were, they went up in that super regional against Alabama. Was it even the super? It was just the regional against Alabama, and they were humbled big time. I mean,
yes.
They didn't belong on the same field as Alabama. And that's okay. I think people were kind of pissed at where they got placed, and that rightfully so. You probably have an argument there. But once they went up with a top 8 team in the country, it was kind of like, okay, all right, we're a top 20 team, probably top 15. But once you get to the big dogs, there's another level. So there's a lot of growing still to go with this team. Like we talked about, Valerie Cagle is 1 in a million athlete at Clemson. Hopefully we can get the next one after she leaves us in a couple of years.
Yeah, what I was going to say is you, Nelson, and I knew it last year, right? I was shooting you guys highlights of Oklahoma softball, and we kind of said, yeah, Clemson's good, but whoa.
I thought they were going to play with Alabama.
And I think they're undefeated this year, Oklahoma.
They should be. That girl's got 375 home runs and 22 at that.
Last weekend. Uh, she has 375 home runs last week, and that's what it felt like. Um, anyway, appreciate Nelson for keeping us up to date. I know what I was going to say. We don't have it on the agenda to talk about, but I wanted you, and I saw Houston in the comments and thought maybe he's still listening, unless he just kind of dive bombed in and was left, is that I'm going to have something on Brad Brownell tomorrow on rubbingtherock.com. Just kind of my thoughts. The tournament starts tomorrow. Don't count the playing games. The tournament starts tomorrow, and that made me start thinking about things. So tomorrow on Rubbing the Rock, look for my thoughts on Brad Brownell. Now on
Houston
to Clemson.
loves Brownell.
I
Houston
know.
loves Brownell.
Well, they're best. I think they're at dinner right now. Clemson baseball started off 14-0. We are both frozen. I don't even know if you can hear me.
I can hear you. I can hear you just fine.
Okay, there we go. We're back. On my screen, we're both frozen. 14-0 start. Two very lackluster games, the last two. They had a couple of home runs Sunday, but the game was basically over and they only had one run before that, 11 strikeouts. Look, they faced a good pitcher. He had a great day. It's going to happen. You're not going to go 56-0 despite what my metrics said, right? It's not going to happen. So that was okay. But then it was another lackluster game last night. I sent something out on Twitter that didn't get any attention this afternoon, but they've only had 12 opportunities with runner on base and those two losses combined. They're not getting on base. What was happening early were they're getting a lot of walks and hit by pitches, and when that didn't happen, I mean, their on-base percentage has nosedived, and they haven't had many opportunities. And when they did last night, they were 3 for their first 4 with runners in scoring position. Unfortunately, 2 of those were infield hits that the runner ended up not scoring on ever, not just in that at bat, in the inning, right? And then your guy, Brian Hawkins, came through with the RBI single, and they were 3 for 4 in the third inning with nobody out. 3 for 4, runners in scoring position. That was it. Finished the game 3 for 10. But bigger than 0 for 6, there was only 6 more chances throughout the game. When you're playing Hartford and you're getting 25 chances a game, I mean, things are going to happen. You're going to score runs, but they've hit a slump. I won't be a slump. It's 2 games. They've hit a patch where they're not hitting like they were. And even, as good as the bullpen was early, we're starting to see little chinks here or there in the bullpen too.
Yeah, I'm not, I'm really just worried about the at-bats. I think the at-bats is obviously the offense. They've scored, 2 runs in the last 2 games that they've lost. But we can't dismiss completely the fact that Clemson started 14-0 and played a couple good teams. Heck, South Carolina fans are crowing at Clemson people because they took 2 out of 3 from Texas. So they forget all real quick that they were 0-3 against Clemson. But, you lose to – I had a friend that used to play at Furman, and he actually was a big-time recruit for Clemson. Hurt his arm. They took his scholarship. He transfers to Furman. And he would tell me they would throw their number 2 guy against Clemson midweek because they wanted to win. And they knew they were getting Clemson's 4th or 5th guy. So, you play a team like Georgia State who was amped up. You look at College of Charleston beat Texas yesterday. I mean, and it's baseball. Anything can happen. So this isn't necessarily a bad Georgia State team that they lost to, but it's more on Clemson. I think, hats off to Georgia State. But for Clemson not to be able to hit, and it starts with Dylan Brewer, and I love him. I'm on record to say he's probably my favorite player, but he's hitting 221. Now his on-base percentage is a little bit better, 299, but for a leadoff hitter, we can't have that. You got to be in the 340s, 360s probably for a leadoff guy to get on base. And he strikes out way too much to be a leadoff guy as well. There's something wrong with Grice. I'm not sure what it is, if he's hurt or what, but he is not the scary guy. I get ripped all the time. You don't get nervous anymore, even when you come up. Like back in the day when you saw Khalil up at bat, and obviously I know you and I talked about it. I knew the ending, but you knew that something was going to happen, or you felt like it. I always felt like that with Tyler Colvin. I always felt like something was going to happen. I think Cooper Ingle is going to get you that butterfly feeling too when he comes up, because the ball's going to be put in play. But Grice is just not doing it right now. I have full confidence that he'll snap out of it, but he hasn't seen a fastball. And if he does, he sees it at the first pitch and he doesn't swing at the first pitch. So the book's out on him. a little bit. He still leads the team or tied with 4 home runs. But here's my stat, my eye-opening stat of the week. It goes back to my stolen base thing. Clemson's 10 for 10 in stolen bases this year. Now they've played 16 games. I would like them to run more. You and I were texting the other day that they were running early on Saturday or Sunday, but they're 10 for 10. Wouldn't you keep trying if you're 100%? Keep trying. Get on base first, but keep trying.
Depends if you want to win. I agree. Let's say Grice is in some kind of funk, and they realize, like you said, they don't have to throw in fastballs. If they do, it's just one. But he's missing all the breaking balls, not even close on a lot of them, which is really weird, really just strange. Like you said, don't know what it is. Could be just a funk. Maybe it takes. I would say maybe it takes a blue pip to get him out of it. But that home run he hit the other day was somewhat of a blue pit, right? It was up in the air and the wind was blowing 400 miles an hour and it went out. So looked like a routine fly ball. But you're right. Cooper Engel, I sent out a tweet the other day. The dude just does everything right. He's like Hunter Renfroe, right? You don't even notice him. You've got all these big guys like Hawkins and Grice and the like. You don't even notice them. And then there he is. He's on base, or he's hitting a single or a sacrifice fly or getting hit by a pitch or something to get on base. It's just like Hunter Renfroe tackling the Alabama player to save the touchdown that would have put that game out of reach. My concern, Casey, is you're right. They were 14-0 and now they're 14-2. And if you'd have told me before the season, yes, they're going to go 14-2, would you take it? Obviously, I take it, right? 14-2 is a great record for a baseball team, but some of those old habits are starting to creep in. Yes, they're 10 for 10 in stolen bases, but they're starting to get thrown out some on the bases. They're starting to make bad decisions. The bullpen is not what it was early in the season. And I'll even say this, Monty Lee, we texted about this, or I texted you. It seems like every game, the same guys come out of the bullpen, right? It's Lindley, Jay Dill, and then they go right down the line. How about try somebody else? You're going to lose to Georgia State. Put somebody in. You get to the end of the year, you need other arms. They don't have any experience, right? And I can tell you what's going to happen Friday. The starter's going to come out. Jackson Lindley's going to go in. Jay Dill's going to follow him. I don't know. I'm not saying it would have made a difference last night, but that's just part of the way that I see the old habits creeping in from the players and the coaching staff. It seemed like no life yesterday. Now, I'm sitting here in Kyle, Texas. I don't know what it was like in the ballpark. JP didn't report in to me today, but it just looked like the old team from last year was back, and I'm really concerned about that. So,
yeah, and if you look, even I have the stats right in front of me, and just a quick glance shows you that Dill has 10 appearances, Lindley has 10 appearances. Other than that, Ammons has 8, Edmondson has 8. I mean, that's who he runs out there every day. No one other than those 4 guys have more than 4 appearances.
Yep,
and most of them have 1 and 2. So, I'm concerned about the errors too, a little bit.
Yes, that's another part of it. Thank you for mentioning that. That's another thing. They played great the first 10 or 12 games, and we started to see a few errors. You and Nelson called me out on it, but I love it. And I don't love the errors though. And it turns out that's the thing. I mean, that's becoming a thing. That's what I mean. They're getting back to that team where they walk a few more guys now. They make a few more errors. They get thrown out on the bases a couple times. So they need to get it together because Miami's not messing around, I'm sure. At least they have Miami and Clemson. They need 2 or 3. It sounds weird. They're 14-2, right? But think about it. If they lose 2 out of 3 or get swept, I mean, that's going to be what, 4 out of 5 they've lost after a 14-0 start.
It starts piling up.
Yeah, at home too, right? I mean, they've played all these games at home except for one, and then a quote neutral game. But now they're going to have to hit the road coming up in the next couple of weeks. This is when you want to get wins. 2 out of 3 last weekend. Okay, Georgia State was 10-6, and I don't know who they've played. They look like a good team. They just carried themselves well. So I'm not saying it's the worst thing in the world to lose to Georgia State. I'm saying it's not a good thing to not be able to get hits against Georgia State, and be successful when you do.
I think you're exactly right. And to answer Houston's question, JP told us that he believes that Gilbert's a little dinged. So yeah, he's kind of been held since the South Carolina series. So I don't know. Nothing's really been out there reported, but that's according to JP Priester, that he's a little dinged, I think was the exact quote that we got.
Yeah, right. I think it was the last appearance before South Carolina, because I was saying when he didn't appear at South Carolina, I was like,
that's right.
That's interesting. Why didn't he come in because the first game was 2-2 till the home run by Frenchie. So I was wondering why he didn't come in then. He didn't come in Saturday. I said, well, maybe they're saving him to be the long guy on Saturday or Sunday, because you wouldn't normally need a long guy after angling. But apparently he something happened, and he's not able to go right now. We don't know hardly anything, because nothing gets out publicly about those baseball injuries whatsoever. But the old habits are creeping in, and they're mediocre with runners in scoring position. I put this out on Twitter. I know average is called average for a reason. If you don't include this and you don't include that on either end, it makes it not an average, right? That's the definition of average. But if you take out that Hartford series, they're batting like 170 with runners in scoring position. They blasted Hartford and had been mediocre to below mediocre since then. Just something to keep in mind against Miami, which traditionally has a really, really good pitching staff. I don't know about this year. We'll see. Hey, Beef, is the Choppin' Beef still on hiatus?
Yeah, we're still on hiatus for a couple more weeks.
Okay.
I'll let you know.
All right. That's right. You told me that last week, and I'll take it off the dang agenda next week. You can put it back on. As I mentioned earlier, there's nothing new on seldomusereserve.com. There might be some new stuff coming up, maybe this show and another show. I'm still trying to figure all that out, since I'm going to be spending most of my time on rubbingtherock.com. Hey, Beef, I hope you don't mind a little bit shorter show tonight, but for both of us, multiple podcasts today. I did some writing, and I've got the Spurs game with Parker Coleman in about 10 minutes. So I appreciate you letting me cut it a little short tonight.
Of course. Just real quick, too, I just wanted to add, we were talking a little bit about roster management before. The podcast that I help out on had Shane Beamer on today, and Shane was making that exact statement. Basically, you think you have something, then all of a sudden the transfer portal takes two guys, and he's looking at his running back room saying, I need help. So he ended up taking two running backs. So it was just funny that is a common theme, and you made mention of it earlier.
Think about the Clemson running back room last year before the kid went to Florida, and then how many transferred did they have last year? 3, 4? I don't remember.
3 out of the running back. Lynn J. Dixon, the kid for Bowman, Mikey Dukes. Yeah, there was 3.
Yeah, lots of transfers happens real quick. All right, Beef, thank the people. Let's get out of here.
Yeah, thanks to everyone in the Seldom Used Reserve College Football Discussion Facebook group, especially Nelson Wilhite for his help with the softball team, John Chansey for his work on seldomusedreserve.com and soon to be rubbingtherock.com, Uncle John McGee, as always, everyone on Seldom Used Reserve Sluggo Podcast, and each and every one of you who listens, likes, shares, and participates. We appreciate the comments. Keep them coming. On behalf of Marty, Seldom Used Reserve Coleman, I am Casey the Beef Cregan. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you right here, probably next week on Sluggo.
And don't forget rubbingtherock.com. Thanks, everybody. Tune in. Chris and Vanderbilt.
Give us a follow.
Drop us a line. Holler. We'll have you on. Talk Vanderbilt if you want. Appreciate you, Beef. See you next week.